If you crochet, then you've definitely seen these cute plant patterns around. I have always wanted to make them, but I'm usually busy working on something else. So today I'm going to try and make as many of them as I can in 24 hours. And hopefully at the end of this I'll have lots of new crochet plants to join my real ones. This video is kind of chaotic and it did not go as planned, so make sure you stay to the end to see how many I managed to make. There are so many different types of plant patterns, and it was overwhelming, but I found 3 that I liked, with the idea that I'd definitely finish them in time and that I could just find more after. The links to these patterns will be in the description. With the first 3 patterns in mind, these are the yarns that I picked. I decided to start with this cute Hoya plant. This was a video pattern, so I knew it was going to take me longer. And with the help of my assistant, I started at around 2 PM. The pot and the soil took me around an hour to make. And then I started on the heart, which was already looking really cute. If you usually have bad posture when you crochet, I recommend recording yourself because it definitely helps you keep your back straight. After an hour, I started finishing off the heart. Here it is, all complete. I think it turned out really well. And now all I needed to do was to sew everything together, and I decided not to add any eyes. And just like that, my first plant was done. It took me over 2.5 hours, which was definitely worrying at this point because it's the smallest one of the 3. But it turned out super cute, so it was definitely worth it. The next plant I chose to do was the cactus, and I started this at around 6 PM. One thing that I didn't enjoy about this process, and I think it definitely slowed me down, was having to use such small hooks. I find that I get a lot more wrist pain when I use these small hooks, and I'm also emotionally attached to my 5mm hook and I hate to use anything else. But because I didn't want to end up with really big plants, I soldiered through. It took me around 15 minutes to finish the soil. And for this pattern, you don't sew the cactus on, you actually start the cactus from the soil, which took me a while to figure out. As you can see, I lost my stitch marker at this point, so that is why there is a tapestry needle stuck into the work. This actually happens to me a lot, and while it's not convenient, it does the trick. I also had to learn a new stitch for this pattern to get the ridges on the cactus, and that took me a while. And then I finally got to the last round. And once that was done, I started finishing the cactus off. I think it was looking pretty good at this point, but it was definitely missing the flower on the top. I started on the pot at around 8. It took me half an hour to complete, and I spent another 10 minutes on the flower. Because the cactus was already attached to the soil, it didn't take me very long to sew everything together. And here's the finished cactus. You can tell that someone really liked this one. And as you'll get to see, it definitely looks a lot better in natural light. I started on the snake plant at 10, and at this point I knew it was going to be my last one because it was the biggest and had the most parts, and the other 2 had already taken me a lot longer than I thought they would. When I started this, I thought that giving myself 3 to start would be so easy and that I would finish them in no time. I did think that if I could somehow finish this plant really quickly, then I could at least squeeze another cactus in. But I was definitely delusional and I had no idea how long the leaves of the snake plant were going to take me. But at least I found my stitch marker. I definitely slowed down at this point and the pot took me over an hour to finish. I then made the soil and 1 small leaf, which also took me an hour. I didn't like how it looked when I carried the yarn over, so I decided to colour change for each stripe. But this meant that I would have lots of yarn ends to weave in at the back, which I knew would take me ages. And at this point I was already sick of the leaves, so I decided to call it a day and go to bed. I made a start on the rest of the leaves at 11, and you can see that my cat was my personal cheerleader, and it was hard to focus on what I was actually doing because she was being so cute. My cat eventually got bored and left me, but after a couple of hours I finally finished the leaves. But I still had to weave in all of those ends. It took me an hour and a half to weave the ends in and attach the leaves to the soil. This means that by the time I was ready to finish the plant, it had already passed 2, and I was shocked that it had taken me this long. Even though I was over the set time limit, I attached everything together. And here's how it turned out. The pattern does tell you to put something in the leaves so it stands up, and I did not do this. I just didn't have what I needed for that, and I thought it would turn out fine anyway. And I was kind of right, it does stand up a bit by itself, but it would definitely look better if there was a structure in the leaves. But this means that it also works as more of a trailing plant, and I wanted to make one of those as well, so now I guess I don't have to. And here are the finished plants. I really love how they turned out, and I will definitely be making more in the future, but not in 24 hours. All the patterns that I used were free, and I'll be leaving the links to them in the description. Let me know in the comments which one is your favourite. Follow me on Instagram at Nocturne Knitting for updates. And make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss another video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.